Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to Torah L'Chayim with your host, Rabbi Anibal Mass. Thank you so much for being there. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you for all your messages. So, welcome, Lori. Welcome, Shelly. Welcome, Brenda, Rocky, David, Amparo. Welcome all. I'm glad you guys liked the class with Cantor Leslie. Yes, it was. It was a lot of fun also putting it together. Going through all the music that we have for those five composers and selecting only 10 and then a couple of what we call it bonus tracks. So yeah, it was interesting. Hopefully I will convince people here at the office to make it public soon. So everybody will have access. The audio online wasn't the greatest. In the chapel it sounded good, but online, it was a little bit of a hiccup, at least at the beginning of the class. Then it went, I understand it was better later on. So Brenda, anxiously waiting for the next one. We are thinking, because we want to do probably another 5 composers. So that will make it interesting. And maybe after that, another 5 composers and so forth. We have so many wonderful composers in the Jewish world that we have material for many years to come. By the way, cheers. Double espresso today. This is dangerous because I already had another coffee before, so I'm doing it for you guys, just to have coffee together with you. So if you're having coffee with me, please let me know what kind of coffee. Don't worry, Lori, you missed the class. Many people missed the class, but it was all recorded, and the material is on PDF. So what we are probably want to do is eventually we're going to make it public, and if anybody needs the PDF, we'll probably ask people to send us an email, and then we'll send the PDF back with all the music. That would made the class also super special, because it wasn't just for us performing, but we were explaining about the life of the composers, but also we provided with all the written music, the lead sheets for each one of the prayers, which is some of it, it was written specifically for the class. There is lots of oral tradition around in Jewish world, so sometimes I have fun notating all this music, so it's there for everybody who'd like to do it, because I reward people who love Jewish music. What do I say with that? I know many colleagues that if you ask them, do you have a score of this song, and they will charge me for it. They will charge me for it. I never done that. If I have it, you want it because you love Jewish music, you want to do it, it's yours. Music is to be shared, especially the Jewish world, when we can't be petty in the Jewish world with the music. We have to be generous. So Jewish music could be well and alive and preserved from generations to come. So yeah. Welcome, Holly. Welcome, Randy. Brenda says Zim's high notes. I know, it's if you come to the cantorial conferences, which I went to many of those, the high notes of Sol Zim are usually part of the jokes, right? But I think they're jokes motivated by envy, because the guy has an incredible high range. Welcome, Julia. He has an incredible high range. Because remember, he was trained as an opera singer, and when he came to Winnipeg, he said something very funny, because he speaks a lot in Yiddish. So he was telling his story on how he was trained as an opera singer, and he wanted to be an opera singer, just like Richard Tucker, for example. That Richard Tucker was a famous tenor at the Met. He was like an opera singer, but also once in a while, because of his love of cantorial music, he will serve as a cantor, maybe for the high holidays here and there. So Sol Zim tried to do the same at the beginning, and then what he said here at Shari Zedek from the stage And it was very funny the way he said it. I cannot say the way he said it because he said it in Yiddish, even though then he translated it. He said, I decided that you cannot be an opera singer. And then whatever he said it in Yiddish. He said, because you cannot make a buck with these darn Italians. That's the way he said it. And when he said it, it was very funny because it was Sol Zim saying it. So he realized that he had no future in the opera world, and he decided to embrace his career as 100% cantorial. He will sing opera here and there, but as part of his cantorial concerts, not specifically about, on opera stages. So, David, you said you have a great high range also. Oh, thank you. I use it once in a while. I did. Maybe one day I should talk about this because I took many singing lessons for many years in Argentina and in Chile, and they were terrible. I mean, now I know that the teachers were not good. When I thought I was singing properly, I was not, and I was damaging my vocal cords. And then I discovered other, and I tried other in-person teachers here in Winnipeg. Bad experiences. I was finishing services with my voice tired. Sometimes I couldn't do anything. I couldn't sing above G sharp. I would have to yell an A. And I was thinking, that's not right. I'm a tenor. I should be able to hit higher notes. And then I discovered some other great vocal coaches online. And I learned from them. And then let's say, it's not that I never had the high range. I was able to unlock it, right? It's like playing a video game when you can unlock characters or stages, something like that. So I unlock it by, believe it or not, online lessons. None of my in-person teachers were able to teach me how to do that. But maybe another day, I can tell you more about this. I think it's fascinating because people don't pay attention to the possibilities of online learning enough. I think it's great. And the techniques on teaching online have improved a lot since we have video cameras and better quality over the internet on the audio and things, so you can do a lot of things, even teaching somebody how to sing. Welcome, Ariel Lee. Welcome to the class. You're not late. This is the chit-chat part until everybody's around. Okay, so we're going to study about Parshat Beshalach. Yes, Brenda, here we are online. You see, the technique, the tools available to us to teach online have changed. And it's a fact. It's a fact. And, long ago, I don't know if you remember the times when you wanted to study long distance, it will be something that it will be mailed to you. Remember those days? That you can study things that they will mail you the material and then you have to review it. And then if there were any feedback or exams, I think you have to write it down, put it in a mail and send it. Not anymore. Things are, Okay, maybe I should use more my high notes. I will start experimenting on a Friday, maybe, to see if I can find something to do. And because I'm not singing on the high holidays anymore, because I'm going to the family service, so I don't have an opportunity to sing those high notes for this complex composition for the high holidays. Yeah. Okay, the class for today, the Parsha, is Beshalach, and we also, if we have time, we are going to cover a little bit of to Bishvat, that is coming is Sunday night and Monday, and it's the new year of the tree, and we're going to see what it is. So, but before that, let's go to this week's Parsha because there is something very interesting. This is the time where, remember the Red Sea split for the Israelites. They were able to cross to the other side, and then the Shirat Hayam, because there is the big singing and the first liturgical composition written by the Israelites, and this is historical. It's historical. If you come to synagogue during the week, you will hear in the daily minyan that we sing it every day. As yashir Moshe uvenei Israel et hashira azot l'Adonai vayomru lemor. It's from this week's parsha. But what I want to talk to you is something that happened after they crossed to the other side of the Red Sea. Egypt, long gone. Long gone. The Egyptians who chased after the Israelites, drowned. Okay, not a problem anymore. Now they're moving to the next stage. Again, back like a video game, right? You pass the stage. Now you have you have to fight a boss now. What is the boss here is Amalek. It's the first nation to attack the Israelites after they crossed the Red Sea. In their journey into the Promised Land. Okay? Okay? Ariel Lee, so you take mail-in courses. Yeah, you see. But you got a degree. Good for you. Good for you. Yeah. So, let's read this one. This is the battle against Amalek. And there is something very unique about this. Still miraculous, but the miracle is very interesting. It said that the Israelites were attacked by Amalek. A lot of things I've written about this. I don't want to go into who is Amalek, what Amalek represents. Irrelevant for now. For now. I mean, in this context. I want to share with you what Moses did and why the miracle was presented in this way. Okay, let me read for you and then I'm going to comment. It says, Moses said to Joshua, pick some troops for us and go out and do battle with Amalek. Tomorrow I will station myself on the top of the hill with the rod of God in my hand. Remember that Moses was walking around with the staff, they call it the rod of God. It's something very Kabbalistic, supposedly with a lot of power in it, in the rod itself. So Moses had it in his hand. So it said, Joshua, tomorrow I will station myself on top of the hill with the rod of God in my hand. Joshua did as Moses told him and fought with Amalek, while Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. Then, whenever Moses held up his hand, Israel prevailed. But whenever he let down his hand, Amalek prevailed. But Moses' hand grew heavy. So they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on him, while Aaron and Hur, one on each side, supported his hands. Thus, his hands remained steady until the sun set. Now, this is a very interesting thing. What is the miracle here? The miracle is there was a war, there was a battle, so only when Moses was holding his hands up, right? So I will have to show you like this, right? Holding I guess the staff will be in one hand, but he has the two hands up. While his two hands were up, the Israelites down the valley were winning. Whenever Moses' hands were tired, so he had to lower it, the Israelites were losing the battle. So you could clearly see that Amalek was overcoming them. So what happened is, Moses, Aaron, and Hur quickly realized this. So it's okay, let's plan something to help you, Moses. So they bought this kind of an improvised chair, a rock, and then on top of that, they help Moses to keep his hands up. Now, before I continue with this is typical Moses. Moses, we are going to learn even within the next parsha. Moses didn't like to delegate. We're going to see in Parshat Yitro when we get the Ten Commandments. So usually the Ten Commandments still the show. But Parsha Yitro also said that Yitro, Moses' father-in-law, came to visit and realized that Moses was working non-stop, judging the Israelites. And Yitro said, are you nuts? He said, you're going to burn out. What you have to do is to delegate, train other people so they will know how to judge people, and then give them the easy cases, and then you will take only the difficult ones. Don't be a fool. So you see, we read all this, That's hold on a minute. We have a troll here. I will delete it. Okay, good. Now, poof, bye to the troll. Um, so Yitro had to teach Moses how to delegate. This is the same. Moses tried to do it all himself, and then he failed. He failed, and because of that, Amalek was winning, and that probably means that many Israelites were killed because Moses didn't ask for help from the beginning. Okay, we are already learning something very interesting, because as soon as the other two guys helped him, they were winning right away. So sometimes we feel like Moses, that we can do everything by ourselves, and we don't ask for help until it's too late. And then, of course, we get help, we can fix it. But why do we have to fix it if we can be more aware of our limitations, if you want to call it, from the beginning, and we ask for help early on? Moses learned it the wrong way, but I guess he learned it. I guess he learned it. Between this episode and Yitro, Moses eventually learned to delegate, and that was probably part of his own character development that at the end of the day was going to be also necessary to empower Joshua to be the first leader of the people of Israel. Okay? Just saying. Those are a few things that we learn. Now, what else do we learn from here? If you come to synagogue on Saturday morning, you will notice that always we have a Torah reader and two Gabaim. We have two helpers, one at the right, one to the left of the Torah reader. Okay, that format is coming from this episode. So we have the Torah reader representing Moses, and the two Gabaim, the two helpers, side by side, are representing Aaron and Hur. I don't know if you ever noticed that. This is the reason why we have the two people side to side on the pulpit, because of this story in this week's parsha, by the way. Lori, you said it's hard to ask for help. Not everyone is capable of discernment, or they just refuse to use it. Yeah. So, and Shelley, you said ego. Yeah, but this Moses is interesting, because not every case of somebody who refuses to delegate, not everybody are coming from a place of ego. Sometimes it is, most of the times it is, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes is, maybe you're so humble that you don't want to bother somebody else. Or maybe you fail to assess the situation. It could also be that maybe, you thought well, but you were mistaken. Maybe Moses thought the battle wouldn't take that long, but he made a mistake. Whatever it is, he learned the lesson here. Now, which is also interesting, and we're going to see it in a minute, is that the rabbis are debating on how long Moses was able to hold his hand up in the air before he was tired. Do you have any guesses? Any guesses how long Moses was able to hold his hands up? I will give you a minute to answer that question. I know, don't Google, don't do anything. Try to give me your best guess on how long Moses was able to hold his hands up before he got tired. Okay? I need you to answer that question. Rocky, so the ability to delegate is a leadership quality. Not all leaders have it. I know. It's true. In fact, most leaders at the beginning don't, but again, they don't do it, can come from different places. Could come from a place of ego, could come from a place that, they don't want to bother somebody else because they appreciate somebody else's time. Or it could be also an error in the assessment of the situation. And I'm pretty sure there are different reasons not related to ego. So if anybody has other reasons that you may think that they are not related to ego, please let me know in the chat. Okay, Brenda said 2 hours. Just a guess. Okay, 2 hours. Wow. Wow. David, you didn't know about the Gabaim. Now you do. Now you do. That's why we always need to. Yeah. Yeah. Anything? Any other guesses other than the 2 hours? Okay. Let's go to the next. Look at this. Listen to this. According to the plain meaning of the text, it was simply physically impossible for Moses to maintain a posture with raised hands all day long. Whenever he was too tired to maintain his posture, the battle tended to favor the Amalekites. This is why he commanded Aaron and Hur to assist him in maintaining the posture with his hands raised in support of his prayer. Okay, so what Rabbi Stensal says that basically the hands up in the air were Moses' prayer to God on behalf of the Israelites. So while Moses was praying to God, the Israelites were winning. Okay? So, but listen to this. According to the Midrash, Sefer HaBa'ir, which is a Kabbalistic work, by the way, where the question is asked rhetorically whether Moses' hands determined the outcome of the battle, the answer given is that Moses was not suffering from physical fatigue, but that it is forbidden for any man to keep his hands outstretched in prayer for 3 hours or more without a break. Have you ever seen that before? Randy, you said 3 hours. Okay. Yeah, 3 hours. You see, Rabbi Adin Stensals, he confirmed it's 3 hours, but he actually said something very interesting, that according to the Sefer HaBa'ir, analyzing this story, he said that no person should keep his hands outstretched in prayer for 3 hours or more without a break. Interesting. Felix, it's 15 minutes due to blood flow. That's a very interesting thing also, as well. So I don't know why here they have the 3 hours. I don't know where this come. But now look what the Vilna Gaon learns from that same episode. He said, one must not pray any given service more than 3 hours. Which I guess not too many rabbis listen to the Vilna Gaon, because we all know that sometimes in the synagogue the services are way longer than 3 hours. But it's interesting that they learn also from the episodes of Moses and the battle against Amalek that no service should be longer than 3 hours. It's one of the lessons. It doesn't mean that this is halakha. It's not Jewish law, but it's the recommendation. Is that, look, if Moses couldn't do it, we shouldn't do it. Who are we compared to Moses to be there praying for more than 3 hours? So that is one thing that we do. Now the 3 hours mark is very interesting. I remember, and I mentioned it during the class that we did with Cantor Leslie on Monday. That Dennis Prager, when he came to Winnipeg, he said that he goes to a Reform shul, and he also gave the 3 hours mark. He said, in my shul, we pray for an hour, we study for an hour, and we eat for an hour. That is, again, the 3 hours mark. And he was saying that, and he quoted some kind of statistics, which I don't have the data to corroborate and to say, hey, you're wrong. I don't know. He was saying that 3 hours is the max that the average person will give you for services. I would say he's wrong, and in this day and age, the max is 2 hours. Okay? After 2 hours, people start getting antsy. And in the sweet spot is usually 90 minutes. It's on a Saturday morning, it's almost impossible to achieve. But I'm just saying. And then what happened, and this is something I remember talking with, Rabbi Pinsker when he was here. And he was mentioning also the 2 hours the 2 hours limit for people. That was his own experience, the 2 hours. And he told me once, he said, look around. If the service is 3 hours, you will see that most people will come an hour after the service already started. Why? Because they give you 2 hours. That's all they give you. So he was saying there is no such a thing as of a long service. If a service is too long for some people, all they're going to do is they're going to skip the first hour. And they're going to come for the last 2. And that used to be true 20 years ago at the Shaarei Tzedek, when the services used to be 3 hours. If you come at the beginning of the service, nobody will be there. It will be, if we were lucky, a minyan. But then, halfway the Torah service, boop, it was packed. Because people will give you 2 hours. Interesting. But I mean, to me, it's even more interesting that it's somehow connected to this week's parsha when the Midrash connects prayer with the 3 hour mark, and it says you shouldn't go beyond that, because what happens is sometimes it becomes meaningless. You defeat the purpose. You come to shul to create something. You come to shul to get inspired. You come to shul to get uplifted. But then, if because of the length of the prayers, you don't, or you it's not you get it, you got it, but not because of the length of the prayer, you start losing it, then it defeats the purpose. So it's interesting you see at Shaarei Tzedek right now in this day, the services are 2 hours long, and I think it's a beautiful sweet spot that we were able to find. Yeah. Any comments about this? Any comments about this? Now, I will go to the next one, and then I want to mention something. Now, there is another thing here. This is more interesting. They took a stone and put it under him. That's what the parsha says. Now, Rashi says, he did not sit himself upon a cushion or a pillow, for he said, Israel is in tribulation. I will be in tribulation together with them. So here Rashi is, of course, quoting the Talmud, but he is praising Moses as a leader. And then, okay, we know that Moses had many good characters or characteristics as a leader of Israel. But here what he's saying is like, some leaders, they use their influence, their power, their privileges to have an easier time than the common people, right? And don't think about synagogues now. Think about any other organizations and governments and things, right? That we see it all the time, where people in many countries, people are oppressed and suffering, but the leaders are living a comfortable life because they use their power for themselves. So the fact that the Torah mentions specifically that they didn't put a chair under him, because it's Moses. Somebody could have said, hey, send somebody with a chair. Moses is getting tired. No, the fact that the Torah specifically mentioned that it was a stone, according to Rashi, is that the Torah is trying to make a statement here. That Moses, even though he was not down there physically fighting the Amalekite, it doesn't mean that he will be there comfortably sitting on a cushioned chair while the others were fighting and risking their lives. So the fact that he got two people helping him, it was a need. He physically couldn't hold his hands up anymore. But the way he did it, I think is very interesting, and we don't talk nearly enough about this thing on Moses. Yeah. Hello, Janet. Oh, you're never late. If you missed the first part, remember, this class is going to be rebroadcasted tonight at 8 p.m. Central, if you want to repeat it from the beginning. So, yeah. So, any comments about this? I want to know what you think, guys. Lori said, did we schlep chairs around in the desert? Probably not chairs, but at least they could have mentioned a cushion. They have cushions back then. So they could have said they put a stone on the cushion so Moses' tush will be nice and comfortable. He wouldn't have to feel, pain after. But the Torah doesn't say that. And that is a huge statement. It's talking about now, sometimes this goes to Moses' resume at the end, that he wouldn't be a leader that will use, the public resources to be more comfortable than the rest. That is a lot. Let's continue. Now, and there is something else that I wanted to talk to you. I will mention, let me read it and then I will mention what I wanted to say. Hi, Glenn. Welcome. He said, I read this morning they held up the arms until sunset. Yes. And why sunset? That's what I want to mention now. He said, his hands remained steady until the sun set, because the Amalekite had calculated the hours by astrology, it says. Okay? Calculated the hours by astrology, as to which hour they will prove victorious. So Moses held back the sun against them and brought the hours into confusion. I want to talk about this astrology thing in a minute. Let's see, Rocky, what he said. Moses struggled to appear as a common man is interesting. He was, after all, the guy who had Hashem's ear. Let me do it here. Now, Rocky, let me tell you something that to me is one of the most underrated verses in the Torah. And it's when Moses gets accused of being a bad leader. Remember when Korach tried to gain the power, and Korach and his followers accused Moses of being a bad leader. Moses could have said, because Moses was very upset for that accusation, but Moses could have said, who do you think you are, Korach? God talks to me. But no, what Moses said to God, he said, why are they complaining to me? I haven't even taken a donkey from them. What kind of excuse is that? I haven't even taken a donkey from them. Isn't that interesting? Because Moses it looks like he was very conscious of not taking personal advantage of the people, and never be above them. The fact that he had Hashem's ear was Hashem's decisions. Remember that Moses always avoided God. And that, when God said to Moses, you're going to be the deliverer, and Moses said, who am I? I can't even speak correctly. It's interesting. Moses always, he didn't want to do it. That came from a different place. So, yeah. So Rocky, if you wanna comment about this, I would like to hear your insight. Okay, so give me a minute here. Okay. So I want to go back to this and talking about the Amalekites and the fact that the Midrash Tanhuma is mentioning the word astrology. So I want to bring it, and the question is, what do we Jews, what should we think about astrology? What's your opinion about astrology? Because here it looks like Moses said, oh really? You think you're figured out by astrology? Take it. and then they made it, Moses showed them that means nothing, the astrology, because it's going to be whatever God wants it to be. So basically, Lori, is the calculated time by astrology? No, it looks here, the Midrash says that the Amalekites calculated by astrology, not the time, but the fact that they were going to win by sunset, which didn't happen, right? Which didn't happen. So the question here is, what do we think about astrology, or even better, what should we think about astrology, regardless of what we think now? Do you think astrology is something that we Jews should take seriously, or you just said, I will leave that to the Amalekites? What do you think? And I mentioned this because in my recent trip to Sarasota, in Florida, for a wedding, I went to shul, and after kiddush, they have a beautiful Torah class taught by one of the congregants. Is a rabbi. I mean, it's not the rabbi of the congregation. It just happened to be a rabbi. So he taught a class about this, about astrology and Judaism, and he asked people around the table to share, what's the relationship with astrology, and it went all the way from to one woman, for example, that she was saying that she has a computer and she makes all these charts based on astrology, and she knows what to do, and she advises other people. It was very interesting, very interesting. So I would like to, no, not astronomy, astrology. Astrology is the where you will use to calculate horoscopes and stuff like that. That is astrology. Right? Astrology is consulting sometimes, not a psychic, but somebody who will read the planets to tell you the outcome of things. And so, Janet, you said, I don't believe in astrology, as God said those are for other nations, as He set us apart. Okay. But Janet, you also said Kabbalah seems to be deep into astrology. Yeah, you see, it's very interesting. Very interesting. And let me give you the short answer here. The short answer is, in traditional Judaism, astrology is present. It's present. And we have cases in the Talmud where astrology is listened to. We don't have cases where people followed the advice of astrologers, but it's like the story of the daughter of Rabbi Akiva, that an astrologer said to her that she was going to die, that like a snake was going to kill her, and she, at home, by mistake, killed the snake with a hairpin. Okay, by mistake. So Rabbi Akiva, the one who said that astrology has no effect over Jewish people, he asked her, okay, what did you do different today? And then she said, well, what I did different is I gave tzedakah. And then what he said is, oh, that's why the snake didn't bite you and you were able to kill the snake, because tzedakah saves you from death. But it seems to imply that Rabbi Akiva actually took the words of the astrologers seriously. So, yeah. Glenn said, we follow the moon. Yeah, but that is to calculate the months, and it's more about the mathematical order of the universe, not necessarily to guess or to predict outcomes. That's what astrology, that's what we are discussing here, using astrology as a tool to predict outcomes. Okay? So the rabbi seems to be kind of, if you go to the Talmud, in kind of an agreement that there is certain level of predictability in astrology, but nothing compares to the power of God that can completely change that if it's in God's will. Okay? That is what seems to be the thing, to the point that I want to, the Torah brings a little bit of things that we should get away from. So, for example, Leviticus, do not turn to ghosts that do not inquire a familiar spirit. Okay, so we know from there that go to ask the dead is forbidden. And then, said you should not eat anything with its blood. You shall not practice divination or soothsaying. But it seems to be, using pieces of cadavers to do that, to practice divination. But it doesn't say anything specifically about astrology. Now, there is a famous episode that is when God told Abraham that he was going to be the father of many nations. There is a beautiful midrash that's you can go and read it in the book of Genesis. God said to Abraham, "Come out of the tent and look at the sky and look at the stars." And then, all of a sudden, why would God ask Abraham to look at the stars? Perhaps Abraham did believe in astrology. Perhaps Abraham did see in the stars that he wouldn't be able to be the father of many nations. And that's why Abraham was depressed. But God said to Abraham, "Go outside, look at the stars, if you can count them." Almost like saying, you think you figured out, you think you understand the stars. You can't. You can't even count them. So, no, you're going to be the father of many nations. Doesn't matter what the stars are telling you. Okay? So I read that as a big statement on our approach with astrology. If God said to Abraham, look at the stars, they're not telling anything. Listen to me, not to the stars. That's the way I understand that. Okay? So, and the Torah specifically mentioned that it's not allowed for us to talk to the dead, which is another issue. I know some people do it, but the Torah specifically says no. Okay? Now, I want to wrap up the topic with two main and almost opposite opinions within Judaism. And I mentioned these two because they were almost contemporary, Nachmanides and Maimonides, both from the Middle Ages. Okay? Both from the Middle Ages. The Nachmanides will say that one may not ask an astrologer about the future, since this act is not Jewish. It seems to reject the Jewish idea that everything comes from God. Okay? But that a pattern of predictability does exist. Thus, if a Jew happens to overhear a prediction or information from an astrologer, just the way Rabbi Akiva did, it's not that Rabbi Akiva went and asked an astrologer, but he heard an opinion of an astrologer that his daughter will be bitten by a snake. If you happen to hear that, said, why may indeed act upon this prediction? Okay, that was Nachmanides. Now, Maimonides emphatically disagrees with all of the above explanations and rejects any validity at all to astrology. He said that he who believes in astrology is an ignoramus and a fool. Therefore, while it seems that most authorities believe in some sort of astrological power, there is a fine line between believing in this and then believing in a power other than God. However, it is clear that a Jew may not consult an astrologer or medium on a regular basis. What's I mean a regular basis? Let's say it happened to me once. Went to a birthday party and the host had a great idea to bring a psychic that it was making quick readings to people, and it was fun. It was fun. Technically, it would be halachically like you shouldn't do it, but it was there. It was for fun. Okay, let's just go and do it, right? And even Maimonides said, okay, maybe there is some kind of thing that you may be able to predict looking at the stars, maybe, but that's not a Jewish thing to do. We don't need that. All we need is faith in God. You don't need to go look at that. Okay? So, yeah. Only, you said, perhaps God wanted Abraham, to see God's reach, even to the stars. Yeah, maybe he wanted Abraham to see beyond, not just in the start to look at the future, but to look beyond the future. Just, that is much more to the universe, just to look up, just to see what is going to happen tomorrow. And And then Lori said, aren't we on the other side of Haley's comment? I have no idea. I don't know. So that's what I wanted to say about that. And before we run out of time, I wanted to talk a little bit about Tu Bishvat because it's coming on Sunday. Okay, we have 10 minutes until the end of the class. So I want to present a little bit of a reminder of what Tu Bishvat is and how we celebrate Tu Bishvat in these days. Okay, so the Torah says on the book of Leviticus, when you enter the land and plant various kinds of fruit trees, you are to regard its fruits as forbidden. Okay? For 3 years it will be forbidden to you and not eaten. In the 4th year, all its fruits will be holy for praising Hashem. So 3 years you can't touch it. On the 4th you have to take all the fruit, bring it to the temple as an offering. But only in the 5th year you might eat its fruit, so that it will produce even more for you. I am Hashem, your God. Brenda, you said Chag HaIlanot. Yeah, that's one of the ways we call it, Chag HaIlanot. But it's interesting because in Hebrew it's Rosh Hashanah LaIlan, to the tree. That Chag HaIlanot is a modern concept, the festival of the tree, plural. But it's New Year of the tree, the single tree. We are going to see in a minute. So, summarizing this text from Leviticus, the Torah here details regulation associated with fruit trees. Any fruit that grows on a tree during the first 3 years after it has been planted is called orla and is forbidden for consumption, but technically it's 4 years because remember the 4th is to the temple. We don't have the temple, so the 4th year we cannot eat it even in these days. So now this is very important because this is not just for Israel. If you plant fruit trees in your backyard, you have to follow this law. So you're not allowed to eat the fruit until year number 5. Okay? So if you move to a house, for example, new house, you, as a Jew, you technically have to ask the owners, when did you plant those trees? Right? Because it's regardless if you planted them or somebody else, you have to wait until that tree goes through a 5-year cycle of blossoming before you're allowed to eat the Shali Chochinov, great to be in Eretz during Tu Bishvat. Yeah, but the weather is nicer there also. Okay, so this is the thing. Now, the problem with this verse in Leviticus is how do you calculate the 5 years? Is it from Rosh Hashanah, which is the rabbinic calendar? Is it from the biblical calendar, which is Nisan, the month of Pesach? Is it when you planted, when you put the seed on the ground? Is it based on the first time that you can see a fruit on the tree? All very good questions, right? So what happened is, my understanding, Glenn, is all the fruits. So the Mishnah will say it's not so easy to calculate years in Judaism because depends on where you're counting, you're going to use a different calendar. Okay? So the Mishnah will say there are 4 new years actually. One is the first of Nisan, the month of Passover, is the New Year for king and for festivals. And we still use it. The rabbis still use Nisan to calculate all the festivals from there. Okay, they are all related, all connected to the Passover. So then you have the first of Elul, New Year for the tithe of cattle. Okay, all related to the temple, this of course. Then Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Shimon, however, place this on the first of Tishrei. Now, the first of Tishrei, as we know it, is the new year for years, and for the sabbatical and jubilee years, for planting and for the tithe of vegetables. Now, again, Tishrei is when the year changes number. We are 5786. Next first of Tishrei will be 5787, and so forth. Okay, so far we have these different new years. But then on the first of Shevat is the new year for the tree, according to the ruling of Beit Shammai. But Beit Hillel, however, placed it on the 15th of Shevat, Tu Bishvat, which is the way we do it in these days. Okay, so who won, Hillel or Shammai? Of course, Hillel. And thus we have the new year for the tree on the 15th of Shevat. That means that we count 5 years from Tu Bishvat. How? That was the Mishnah. Now we go to the Gemara, the discussion about the Mishnah, and it will say, rabbis taught, if the fruit of a tree blossoms, not when you plant it, blossoms, the first blossom, before the 15th of Shevat, it is tithe for the outgoing year. If it's after the 15th of Shevat, it's tithe for the incoming year. So you count. I'm not specific about things and the melon, pineapples, and things that are in the ground. They may be tithing with the first of Tishrei, that is New Year for vegetables. I'm not an expert on agricultural laws because many of these things don't apply for us, but it's the one for the trees specifically. It's the 15th of Shevat, and it's from the first time that it blossoms. You count 5 years before you can eat the fruit. Okay, so now, as you can see, and I will read this, and we're probably wrapping up the class. Tu Bishvat is technically not even a festival to begin with. It's not a festival. It's not a holiday, and it doesn't have much to offer us now that we don't have a temple anymore. Nevertheless, it was reinterpreted from generation to generation in many different ways to keep it relevant for contemporary Jews. Let me give you one example on how Tu Bishvat was kept alive by reframing the meaning of the date. Listen to this. It is not called the Rosh Hashanah for the trees, but for the tree, singular. Whenever the word tree is used, it always refers to Torah, which is called Etz Chaim, the tree of life. Also, the Jewish people are referred to as apples hanging on the tree in the orchard. The tree here referring to God himself. Therefore, Tu Bishvat is also the celebration of the unique and intimate relationship the Jewish people have with God and a day to pursue that closeness. As you can see here, according to this rabbi, Tu Bishvat for the modern day has nothing to do with the land, nothing to do with physical trees. And according to this rabbi, Tu Bishvat should be a special day for the Jews because it celebrates the unique relationship between the Jewish people and God and between the Jewish people and the Torah, specifically the Torah, because the Torah is also an etz, a tree. Etz Chaim is a tree of life. Now, it's not a coincidence that the rabbi who suggested this, Rabbi Zadok Cohen Rabinowitz of Lublin, from Poland, lived in a time where the land of Israel was not an option. And people in that generation, they didn't even imagine that 50 years later, Jews will be allowed to come back to the land of Israel. And the whole connection of Tu Bishvat with the land made all of a sudden sense again. Right? But we are talking about a group of people, a group of Jews, like Rabbi Tzadok Cohen Rabinowitz, where they decided to drop altogether the connection with the land, and all of a sudden, Tu Bishvat is talking about the Jewish people and the Torah, right? But we also have, let me give you an example now of this. Rabbi Yehuda, the son of Rabbi Shimon, began, after the Lord your God you shall walk, and unto him shall you cling. Is it possible for a human being of flesh of blood to rise up to heavens and cling to the divine presence, about whom is written, for the Lord your God is a consuming fire? Rather, just as from the beginning of the world the Holy One, blessed be He, involved Himself only in planting. Why? Because Genesis says, and the Lord God planted in the Garden of Eden. So too, when you enter into the land, involve yourself only in planting, as it is written in the book of Leviticus, when you come to the promised land. And then Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was known to say, if you are holding a sapling in your hand and someone says that the Messiah has drawn near, first plant the sapling and then, and only then, go greet the Messiah. So you can see that in both cases, it seems that one is understand tree planting as a holy act. So it's not that because we connect the tree with the Torah, that we should drop altogether our connection with the land, because we have lots of traditional sources reminding us how important nature is and how important planting is. And that's why Tu Bishvat also has for us a reminder of our responsibility to nature and to trees and in this day and age, also to the connection with the land of Israel. So, yeah. Okay, so thank you everyone for tuning in today. Thank you for your wonderful presence and participation and all your wonderful comments. Okay, so somebody asked if it's me this Friday. No, it's going to be Cantor Leslie. Cantor Leslie is going to be leading Friday night this coming week. So please come and support her or connect online. And if you are in town this coming Saturday, we are going to have Tu Bishvat Seder at the Shari. Oh, because there is some people it's a Kabbalistic thing to do, to have a Seder similar to the Passover one. So we are going to do something like that during the Kiddush after services on Saturday. But it's also Shabbat Shira. Well, we read the song of the Red Sea, so the service will be musically enhanced. And there is also family service. So if you know young kids sending our way, we're going to have family service as well, this thing. Okay? So thank you everyone for tuning in. Remember, thumbs up to the video. If you haven't done so, subscribe to our channels. Very important. And it's going to be rebroadcasted tonight at 8 p.m. Central. Okay? Have a wonderful rest of your day. Stay safe. Hope to see you soon. Bye, everyone.